Picture this, a vast, unforgiving desert. It's hot, it's dusty, and there's nothing but sand for miles. This is where we find the Israelites, a group of former slaves recently freed from Egypt. They're led by Moses, a prophet who speaks directly to God. They're on a journey to a land promised to them, a land flowing with milk and honey. Life in the desert is tough. There's not much food, water is scarce, and the Israelites are starting to get restless. They grumble and complain, longing for the comforts of Egypt. Despite the hardships, Moses reassures them. He reminds them that God is with them, guiding them and providing for them. He performs miracles, like parting the Red Sea and bringing forth water from a rock. He gives them the 10 Commandments, a set of laws to live by. The Israelites, despite witnessing God's power firsthand, are about to face a serious test of faith. Now Moses is a busy man. He's got a direct line to the big guy upstairs, and that means a lot of trips up Mount Sinai. So Moses goes up the mountain to chat with God, leaving the Israelites to their own devices. Time passes, days turn into weeks. Moses is still up on that mountain. And the Israelites? Well, they're starting to sweat, literally and figuratively. Remember, these are people who are used to structure, to clear directives. They've lived under pharaohs, for crying out loud. Now their leader, the one man who connects them to God, has vanished. The uncertainty is gnawing at them. The whispers begin. Where's Moses gone? What if he's abandoned us? What if God has abandoned us? Doubt, like a desert wind, starts to whip through the camp. They need something to reassure them, something tangible, something that represents the power they believe in. They're ripe for a distraction, a substitute for the absent God and their absent leader. With Moses gone, a power vacuum emerged. The Israelites needed someone to lead, someone to guide them, someone to tell them what to do. Enter Aaron, Moses' brother. Now Aaron was a decent chap, a skilled craftsman and a natural leader in his own right. But he wasn't Moses. He didn't have that direct line to God, that unshakable faith. He was perhaps a little too susceptible to the pressures of leadership, to the demands of a restless crowd. The Israelites surrounded Aaron, their anxiety palpable. "Moses is gone," they cried, their voices a mixture of fear and anger. "We need a leader, someone to guide us." Aaron, caught in the maelstrom of their desperation, found himself nodding along, agreeing to their demands. Imagine the scene. The desert sun beating down the sand, swirling around their feet. The Israelites, their faces etched with fear and uncertainty, looking to Aaron for salvation. "Make us gods, Aaron," they demanded, their voices a chorus of desperation. "Gods who will go before us and lead us to the promised land." Their plea was a potent mix of fear and defiance, fear of the unknown, of the vast emptiness of the desert that stretched before them. They had forgotten in their fear the miracles they had witnessed. They craved something tangible, something they could see and touch, something that would assuage their doubts and calm their fears. Aaron, overwhelmed by their fervent pleas, caved in. He called for their gold, their earrings, their necklaces, their bracelets. The Israelites, eager to appease their anxieties, readily surrendered their treasures. Imagine the scene, a makeshift furnace roaring in the desert heat. Aaron, his brow furrowed with a mixture of guilt and determination, overseeing the melting down of the gold. The air thick with the smell of melting metal, the Israelites watching with bated breath as Aaron, using all his skill as a craftsman, shaped the molten gold into the form of a calf. A golden calf, a symbol of wealth and prosperity, but also, in the ancient world, a potent symbol of strength and fertility. A false god, crafted from their own hands, a tangible representation of their wavering faith. The golden calf, gleaming under the desert sun, became an instant object of veneration. The Israelites, their fear replaced by a kind of manic fervor, bowed down and worshipped their creation. They sang, they danced, they feasted, their revelry echoing across the desolate landscape. They had replaced the unseen God, the God who had demanded their faith and their obedience, with a God of their own making, a God who demanded nothing but their adoration. They had, in their moment of weakness, committed the ultimate betrayal. They had traded the eternal for the ephemeral, the divine for the earthly. Little did they know that their actions, their revelry, their betrayal would have dire consequences. Their true leader, the one with the direct line to God, was about to descend from the mountain. Now, you might be thinking, golden calf, really? That's the best they could come up with? But hold on, let's try to get inside their heads a bit. They were terrified. Imagine being stuck in the middle of nowhere, your leader MIA, your future uncertain. Fear does funny things to people. It makes them act irrationally, desperately. These were people who'd just escaped slavery. They were used to clear hierarchies, tangible symbols of power. The Egyptians had their pharaohs, their pyramids, their golden statues. In their desperation, the Israelites reverted back to what they knew. The golden calf wasn't just a random animal statue, it had symbolic weight. For the Egyptians, the bull was associated with strength, fertility, virility. It represented the life-giving power of nature. The Israelites, whether consciously or unconsciously, were tapping into these ancient primal urges. They wanted a god who would guarantee their survival, their prosperity, their future. And let's not forget the gold itself. By melting down their jewelry, their most valuable possessions, they were investing something of themselves in this idol. This golden calf wasn't just a statue, it was the embodiment of their hopes, their fears, their desires. The worship of the golden calf wasn't just a solemn affair. Oh no, these Israelites knew how to throw a party. Think dancing, singing, feasting. They went all out. The atmosphere was electric, a potent mix of religious fervor and drunken revelry. This wasn't just about worshipping a golden statue, it was about creating a shared experience, a sense of community in the face of uncertainty. Sadly, it was a community united by betrayal, by a collective forgetting of the God who had brought them this far. Now, some might argue that the Israelites weren't actually rejecting God completely. Maybe they saw the golden calf as a sort of intermediary, a way to connect with the divine in a way that felt more immediate, more tangible. But the damage was done. They'd crossed a line. They'd broken the first commandment. You shall have no other gods before me. This act of idolatry, this moment of weakness, would have far-reaching consequences. Meanwhile, back on Mount Sinai, Moses was none the wiser. He was having a lovely chat with God, receiving the 10 Commandments, you know, those stone tablets inscribed with the rules for a good and proper life. Imagine his surprise then, when he finally descends the mountain, those heavy tablets in hand, only to be greeted not by cheers and hymns of praise, but by the sounds of drunken revelry and mooing. The golden calf, gleaming obscenely in the sunlight, surrounded by his people, lost in a frenzy of idol worship. Now, Moses was a patient man. He had to be, dealing with the Israelites day in and day out. But even he had his limits. This wasn't just grumbling about food or complaining about the heat. This was a full-blown mutiny against God, a blatant disregard for everything Moses had been working towards. Moses, he wasn't just a leader, he was a believer. He'd staked his life, his reputation, on the promise of God and the future of his people. The scriptures say that Moses' anger burned. He hurled the stone tablets to the ground, those precious commandments shattering into a million pieces, a physical manifestation of their broken covenant. You could say Moses was less than pleased. Silence fell upon the camp. The Israelites, their revelry interrupted, turned to face their leader, their faces now etched with fear and guilt. The party was well and truly over. Moses, his voice like thunder, confronted them, his words dripping with disappointment and anger. He demanded to know who was responsible, who had led them astray, and Aaron, bless his cotton socks, tried to explain it all away, stammering about gold appearing magically in the fire and shaping itself into a calf. Yeah, right, Aaron. Nice try. Moses wasn't buying it. He ordered the Levites, the priestly tribe, to take up swords and cleanse the camp. It was a stark reminder that actions have consequences, that even in the wilderness there was no escaping the judgment of God. The air, thick with the smell of blood and incense, hung heavy over the camp. The golden calf, once an object of veneration, was ground to dust and scattered to the wind. The revelry of the previous night seemed like a distant, fevered dream. The Israelites, now painfully sobered, were left to confront the consequences of their actions. They had betrayed their leader, broken their covenant with God, and spilled the blood of their own kin. The incident with the golden calf left an indelible mark on the Israelites' journey. It raised uncomfortable questions about the nature of leadership, the fragility of faith, and the constant struggle to remain true to one's beliefs. even in the face of fear and uncertainty. Right, let's talk about Moses for a minute. Here's a man who's literally leading a nation, a mob of former slaves, through a scorching desert with nothing but a tent and a burning bush to guide him. Talk about pressure. He's got God on one shoulder, whispering commandments and prophecies, and a bunch of hangry Israelites on the other, moaning about the lack of decent takeout. Imagine the emotional roller coaster this bloke was on. One minute he's up on Mount Sinai, having a nice theological debate with the Almighty. The next, he's breaking up a rave and smashing idols. The golden calf incident wasn't just a betrayal of God, it was a personal betrayal of Moses' leadership. He'd put his neck on the line for these people, and they repaid him with a disco inferno dedicated to a fake cow. But here's the thing about Moses, he doesn't give up. He pleads with God to forgive the Israelites, to give them another chance. Now the Israelites, they're a bit sheepish after the whole golden calf debacle. The hangover from that desert rave was brutal, both literally and figuratively. They'd seen Moses' fury, witnessed the consequences of their actions, and frankly, they were terrified, but also perhaps a little bit ashamed. The trust between leader and followers, the covenant with God, it was shattered. The question is, can it be repaired? This incident forced the Israelites to confront their own weaknesses, their capacity for fear and doubt. It was a harsh lesson in the true meaning of faith, in the importance of trusting the unseen, the unchanging, even when things get tough. Right. So what can we learn from this whole golden calf kerfuffle? Well, for starters, it shows that humans, we're a bit rubbish at this whole faith thing. We say we trust in something bigger than ourselves, but then we go and build ourselves a shiny distraction the minute things get tough. It's like that mate who swears they're over their ex but then starts liking all their Instagram posts after a few pints. We're fickle creatures, easily swayed by fear, by uncertainty, by the allure of the tangible. And it's not just ancient history, is it? Look around, we've got our own modern-day golden calves, money, fame, technology, you name it. Anything that promises us security, happiness, a sense of purpose, but ultimately leaves us feeling empty and unfulfilled. The story of the golden calf is a cautionary tale, a reminder that true faith requires more than just blind devotion or empty rituals. It demands something of us. It demands trust, even when we can't see, can't touch, can't fully comprehend. The Israelites, wandering lost in the desert, they're a lot like us, aren't they? We're all on a journey, trying to find our way, searching for meaning and purpose in a world that often feels chaotic and uncertain. We all face moments of doubt, of temptation, of wanting to take shortcuts, to choose the easy path over the righteous one. The story of the golden calf doesn't offer easy answers. It's not a neat little parable with a clear moral. It's a messy human story about faith and failure, about betrayal and redemption. It challenges us to examine our own hearts, to confront our own capacity for both good and evil. It reminds us that true leadership isn't about wielding power or demanding obedience, but about guiding, inspiring, and yes, sometimes forgiving. It's a story that continues to resonate thousands of years later, because it speaks to the very core of what it means to be human, to grapple with doubt, to strive for something better, and to find our way back to faith, even when we've strayed from the path. So next time you're feeling lost, tempted to build your own golden calf, remember the Israelites, remember Moses, and remember that the journey, however difficult, is always leading us somewhere. God bless you all, my friends.